Hello, everyone. Welcome to the flex.bi 6.4 walkthrough webinar. I'm very excited today to share with you the new features. So let's go. For those who are not familiar, I'm Guido. I do training. So if you ever sign up for the training, I will be your trainer. I do report building and work on some projects, as well as sometimes I work in support. So if you ever write something on our support channels, I might be the person who's answering it. Today's agenda, this is today's agenda. We'll start with the account groups for financial reports. We'll talk about the custom date fields, making new fields with those. We'll talk about warning message improvements. Warning messages are good, so this is a good improvement. We'll talk about formatting for charts. You might already notice that we changed the save buttons a little bit. We will talk about user-defined measures. I'll mention map selection, and after that, we'll talk about custom fields for Jumis Pro application. So this is some other application outside of Hansa or one of our other integrations. And then we'll talk about Visma Horizon ERP integration as well. So how does that all tie together? So this webinar is recorded, so the recording will be available later as well. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please put them in chat. I'll try to answer them for you. So let's start with the account groups. So financials. So in flex.bi, we have multiple cubes that can be imported. We can import finances, sales orders, purchase invoices, and other cubes. But financials cube is one a little bit different because in order to use financial reports, we usually need to, or almost always, we need to set up the account groups. So every company has different account groups, how they define them, and they usually put them in balance in the reports in the Hansa nominal ledger. For example, they use balance sheet reports or profit and loss reports, and they define account groups. And a lot of times we notice that what we're doing, we're just taking what's in those reports and we're just copy pasting it into flex.bi. And it's not as easy. It takes some time to do it, a couple of hours usually, and it's not something complex. So we thought maybe we can just automate this and make this easier. So from this version, moving on, the two reports, balance sheet and profit and loss, there's an option for that. But if you enable this option, these two reports will be automatically, or specifically the account groups, will be automatically recreated in flex.bi with the accounts that you have specified. As a side note, this specifies only the account groups. So that means that you still would have to set up some kind of calculations, maybe like compared to last year, or if you want a cumulative sum, you still need to set this up. But using this allows us to set up the financial reports faster, and it's easier for new customers to start using financial reports now as well. A little bit on how this works. So here's a report where this is set up. So I enabled the checkbox, and this is what it created. You will be able to see that there's a balance sheet and like a new group or section. And there under this section, you will have all of the account groups that have been specified in Hansa. They will be available here with the necessary formulas that back them up, basically. So here we created all the formulas, and they should represent the same numbers. And there's also going to be sales and profit and loss account group. So all of the account groups from there will be put into this section. So to enable this option, you will have to go to your Hansa application, log in or continue on the application. And in the cube properties section, there is a section for financials cube, meaning if you have enabled it for import, of course. There's a checkbox, import account groups for Hansaworld user-defined report. So this, what enables, if you enable this, this will make the account groups automatically be copied to flex.bi. And another cool thing is that if you make changes in Hansaworld, they will, during the next import, they will be also updated in flex.bi. So it kind of mirrors what's going on. So if you want to make any changes, you need to contact us or your partner, or you don't have to go into flex.bi. You can just make changes in Hansaworld, and they will automatically be updated in flex.bi. Then there's a new feature in the current version where you can create new measure sets based on custom date fields. We will talk about custom fields a little bit more later as well, but just to mention that custom fields basically is a functionality that allows you to create new measures, dimensions, or properties based on something that's not in Flex, that's on something that's not in flex.bi yet. So you can define that, hey, I want to import this field in Hansaworld from this register, and I want to make a measure out of it, right? So that was working already in previous version, right? And then in the previous version as well, we had a checkbox that you can enable creation of planned sales order item measures or planned sales order measures, right? So how it previously worked, and you could set this up very similarly now, is that by default, if I go to my test Hansaworld, right, by default, when flex.bi imports data, it links time to this date, right? So it's basically the sales order creation date. So that's where all the data is linked to, right? But in cases where you wanted to link time to something else, like planned delivery date, you have to use the checkbox. But why we made these changes is that maybe you want to use this another date for some other fields, like due date for invoices, or quotation decision date, or any other date that you're using in Hansaworld. So now, not only you can enable this checkbox to import planned dates, now this functionality is moved to custom fields, and you can set up this. You can make this setup for date fields for any of the fields. One important thing to note about this is that how it works a little bit here. So I have set up a report where I can see sales orders and their dates and what kind of data is it linked to. So you can see this is, if we look at this sales order, then on January 16th, it has item quantity of 10, this is the base item base amount or turnover. And on January 17th, you can see that there's planned dates, the same numbers, but with planned dates. And this is what I was talking before, that the first measures are linked to the first date and the second ones are linked to the second date. And how it works right now is that flex.bi duplicates data. So it takes the same sales order and makes another copy of it into kind of like database. And you can, depending on which measure do you use planned measures, or do you use the default measures? Let's see. So these are the default ones, and these are the, for example, planned ones. Depending on which ones do you use, that there will be different time for that, right? So one thing to keep in mind is that this makes the date amount larger if you select this, but now there's an option to enable this for any field or set this up. We even, during the version upgrade, we even emailed some customers that we will re-import their data. And this is the reason why we did it, because we wanted to move them from old functionality to custom fields that use this planned functionality or date duplication. So moving on to warning messages. So I hope that was clear. So moving on to warning messages. So before we get into, we're talking about this section here, what's here. So this is something good, good warnings. And before we explain why we set this up, let me give you a background a little bit on how the import works. Like, why is this necessary? So previously, or currently as well, the import works in a way that when you set up a new import, you specify a start date, import start date, right? And from this time, flex.bi will import all the data. So if you say, oh, 1st of January 2015, then from that time up until today, all the data will be imported. Now, on the second import though, flex.bi will not re-import all the data. That's just unnecessary. And there's a lot of data and it's just unnecessary to take the same records from Hansa that we have already in, right? It doesn't make sense. So on the second import, it uses either incremental import or refresh period, where it re-imports like the last 90 days or something. It's customizable, by default, it re-imports the last 90 days, right? So the first import everything, after that, just selection of some kind of data. Now, in flex.bi, there are options to change the import in a way where it affects historical data. It doesn't change anything in Hansa, so this data will not be re-imported with, for example, incremental, but it changes how the data is imported in flex.bi. For example, you could set, if you're importing non-OK, if you're importing non-OK, if you're importing only okayed sales orders, you can check a box that says, oh, import also not okayed sales orders, right? And in order to make this work, you actually have to re-import all the data, because flex.bi doesn't really recognize yet that, oh, you enabled this, then we have to re-import all the data. Or rather to say, it's kind of complicated, because we don't know when you want to re-import data. It might mess something up. So we came up with a solution that will give you a warning. Hey, so if you make any changes, maybe we can go to application and take a look at some of them. So if you make any changes, then the changes that affect historical data, how flex.bi imports them, will give you a warning that, hey, we see that you made some changes that are important to historical data. Please re-import data to have it correct. So for example, it works when you're adding new objects or any other extra dimensions. It works when you mark on okayed, unokayed. Other options don't come on top of my head right now, but one of them is also, for example, custom fields. So we just wanted to make it a little less confusing and give you a warning so that you know, oh, I need to re-import, right? And on top of that, if you make any changes to, going back to presentation, so if you make any changes to custom fields, advanced settings for custom fields, then we will also show you warning that you need to go back and check the box. Because currently, if you make any changes to a custom field, it will automatically deselect. You have to go back in and check again that you want that same field that has been changed again, right? So this is like a quality of life feature, so that sometimes you're not surprised, like, oh, I changed the setting, but the data is not right, but I wanted, what's happening, right? It will tell you, you need to re-import data. And you can re-import data in two ways, as a side note. One way is clicking on these dots. There's a re-import all data button. This will re-import data for all cubes. And if you want to re-import data for just one cube, you have to go to Analyze section and click empty for that cube and click yes. So this will erase all the data, leaving the reports. The report will stay, but it will erase just the data. And afterwards, you can come and click import button, and it will import the missing cubes, or cubes that have been emptied, so to call. In the previous version, there was already an option available to do conditional formatting for tables. So you could say that if value is bigger than this or smaller, then we mark this color red or blue, or you can say mark the top 3 or bottom 5 and mark these red. And there were some more advanced options to format. Now we've moved this formatting also to charts. So here's an example where in this chart, the lowest value is set up red, and the highest number from all the months here is selected green, right? Just to review how the formatting works and where you can find it. This is a similar report. Here I can see this is the lowest value, this is the highest value. And specifically for the charts, where you can find these set up to find a place to set up this conditional formatting is by clicking here on this color. Important difference that this is not clicking on the name will give you some other options. It's like you will be clicking here on the column. This is what it gives. But if you click on the color, then it gives you different options, right? So if you go to color, you'll be able to find a conditional formatting button here, right? And by clicking on that, now you have access to format this. And I can see that I have used top bottom formatting type. And I marked that top 1 will turn green and bottom 1 will turn red. So I can, for example, change the top 3. So 1, 2, 3 highest values are now green, right? So that's one way. And then there are other ways how we can format this, where I can say that up to 52,000, the color is going to be red. And I'll add new rule that's starting from 52,000, the value going up, you can turn the value green, right? Everything below 52,000 now is red, above is green. And you can use this, for example, to, if you have some kind of goals for you have monthly goal of this, 52,000, for example, you can set up a line, and then if you don't hit the month, it's going to be marked red. Or you have for salespeople, you're setting up goals, so you can use those goals also in charts, so you can look back which month did the person hit the goals, which month the person didn't hit the goals, and you can figure out probably more cases on that. So conditional formatting now is available also for charts. And there are some other options as well. You can pick exact values, use regular expressions, or even write some kind of advanced functions that return values, and then you create conditional formatting based on that. So it's quite in depth. You can get quite a lot done with that. Okay, so yeah. So going back to what we were discussing was warning messages. Now there's a warning that if you make some changes that affect historical data that need a reimport, we will let you know about that. And there's also a reminder when you change some custom fields that you need to enable them. Then we talk about conditional formatting. And now another change that some of you probably have noticed already is that we changed the save buttons a little bit. Previously wasn't as intuitive as we were hoping for, as there was only one save button, and it kind of had the combination of both functionalities, where previously, if you click on save button, you change the name for the report, then it will make a copy of the report. And sometimes people get confused about that. Where's my old report? How does it work? So currently, let's open up a report. So currently, if you have not made any changes to a report, this save button is not available. Then if you make any changes, for example, I switch to euros, then this save button shows up and I can save. And if I want to make a copy of this report with a different name, I can use the save as button and change the name, and this will make a new report and keep the existing one as it was before. And previously in the save button, there are two other functions which were moved to. So you can select the folder. Now folder selection has been moved here as well. Now you can move to a different folder using this, or you can make a report private or make it not private anymore here as well, right? And as it was previously, in order to rename a report, you have to use this rename button here on the 3 dots. So small quality of life change to make it a little bit more intuitive. Then in flex.bi, so this is targeted more for users that have a lot of measures. They have a lot of, they make their own reports. They have a lot of reports to manage. And we made a little improvement to user-defined measures. So first of all, let me explain. So in this helps, and these report-specific measures just help to manage the large amounts of measures, right? So because when you create measures, there might be a big mess, and there might be measures that you use only in one report, and those take up space, unnecessary space. So if you want to use it in one report, why should it take up space and show up in all the reports you're making, right? So that's why there is a function to make a measure report specific, so that it's only available in one specific report. But now we added the option also to convert the report specific ones into general ones, right? So if you make a report, you make a report specific measure, you decide, oh, you know what, I want to use this in another report. I don't want to use it just in this report. So you can click on this button, and it will convert this to a like general, not user specific measure. Let me quickly demonstrate how it looks. So if I open up the measures dimension here, you could be able to see there's a report specific measure group, and there's this report specific measure that I have created, right? And the cool part is that you can see this measure only in this report. So if I open up analyze section, new report, this will not be visible, right? But these user-defined measures, these are visible for everyone, right? So this is nice if I want to keep this measure in this report. I don't want everyone to see it. I don't want it to take this space up, right? Because it can get quite large. Then I can, but if I decide the opposite, I can click on the measure and convert it to shared user-defined measure, right? So this will make the measure come here, and now everyone can see it. And in order to do this opposite, you open up a report, you click here, you see, oh, it's only used in one report, right? So if it's used in one report, maybe I can just make it report specific just to clean up the interface. Then you can click here and convert it to report specific. Right now, and now it's report specific and not, and this is not shared by other reports. So just like a quality of life feature to make the report measure management a little bit easier. Then we added some other countries and regions in the map selection. Just to and this is good if you want, if you're living in a specific area and you want to see a map of your area or your region specifically, to put to see the data on that specific map, right? So if your map is too large, we added some other options or other maps so that you can have maps specifically for your region. For example, if you're doing business in Europe, then you could be able to, now you are able to see a map about Europe, or maybe you're doing business specifically in Argentina, then you can click on that and you'll be able to make a map that works specifically for your region, right? And just to iterate a little bit on how this works, is that if you have some selected in the rows correct country names or ISO codes, then ISO codes, then you can, then this map chart recognizes the codes or names and puts color on the map. So the the bigger the number compared to other numbers, the brighter the color, or the smaller the number, the just gray or whitish, the whiter the color, right? For example, another example as before, maybe you don't want to use a world map, you're doing business just in Europe, you can just select Europe. And now, like I mentioned, there are other regions, and this is, you can check the region here. So this is the list of regions that are currently available. So moving on to Jumis Pro application. So Hansaworld is one of our integrations. We also support import from Jumis application. And I just wanted to talk a little bit more about how we work with more other integrations, or what's our plan for the future, how to work with them, and improvements we have made for Jumis Pro application. So previously I talked a little bit already about the advanced settings, and just to iterate, advanced settings is an option for users to import additional fields into flex.bi that are not available by default. So kind of how it works is that you say, hey, flex.bi, I want to use from that register, I want to use this field, I want to import it in this cube. It's imported during this measure dimension import, and I want to create a new measure out of that, or new dimension, or basically it's just, if you don't have something in flex.bi, you can get it in with advanced settings, right? That's how it has been working until now. So now for Jumis application, we rebuilt the application recently, and we made the whole application be based on custom fields. In our experience with Hansaworld, we realized that when building new integrations, there will be a lot of changes, and sometimes you have to make this decisions of, oh, do we want to put this in standard for everyone, or do we don't want to do it? And then this kind of complicated process. And if we want to do something, put in something in standard or make some kind of changes, then we have to develop this, make it specific. We need to develop this. Then we need to release a whole version where this change is included. That takes time. But now we've built the Jumis Pro application, or rebuild it, in a way where everything's built on custom fields, meaning that now you can go, if you need to make changes to an existing import, something existing, you can do that. You can make changes to something existing, and you have more tools to import data in more advanced ways. Just to illustrate, so here I'm in Jumis import application. If I open up advanced settings, you see there's a lot of settings, and it's quite complicated right now, but we have some plans to make it more intuitive and more simple. So by putting everything in custom fields, like I mentioned, it gives you more flexibility to make any changes that are necessary, right? And so if you're using Jumis application, then this is available for you. And just to mention that this is available for the highest plan. You probably need to upgrade the plan to have this advanced settings feature available to change the fields, right? And then that's not what I wanted. And then we also built a whole new integration or application for Visma Horizon ERP. So this is very similarly to Tilde application. This is also built only on custom fields, and currently it supports the financial reports like profit and loss, balance sheets, and others. You can automate budget control for Visma Horizon customers, And then there's also, of course, there's also the previous options to import data from Google Sheets or use something like time to submit application, right? And one thing I guess I'm going to mention as well is that now, since we have this approach now that we're building everything on custom fields, it makes it also easier for us to make new applications or more new integrations, right? We just need to put in the basics. The basics are much more simple. We don't need to make everything exact and correct. We just put it all together, get it working. And if we need to make adjustments, we don't need to do some developments, change versions. We can just change the custom fields on the go. So if you know anyone who's using Horizon, please let them know we have integration. Let's work together. That's it for me. I hope this was useful. If you have any questions about the webinar or something, you can still email us at support. We will try to answer and help you. And that's it. Bye-bye. Have a good day.